Hi everybody. Let's talk a little bit about the presentation that goes along with research report number 3. Remember, this is a group project. After you write your research report, you're going to convert that information into a PowerPoint presentation. Let me give you some more detail about that. Let's look a little bit more closely at the instructions. Here are the instructions for research report number 3 and also the presentation. Let's scroll down a little bit and look specifically at the instructions for the presentation. This semester we're not meeting face-to-face, so you won't do a typical oral presentation. However, you're going to create a PowerPoint presentation nonetheless. So let's talk about that. Instead, I need you to create a PowerPoint presentation that touches upon all key points covered in that research report. You're essentially taking that research report and you're turning it into a presentation. In other words, your presentation should cover each of the 7 numbered sections in your research report. In the notes section under each slide, write the dialogue of your presentation. I'll show you about that in just 1 minute. Be sure to include enough background and detail so that we understand what your group studied, why you studied it, what you found, and what your results mean. Remember, this is a stat class, so be sure to provide plenty of detail about the statistical analyses. On Blackboard, you'll see I have a points rubric set up, both for the research report that you'll be working on and also for the presentation. Because you won't be giving an oral presentation, I'll have to make some adaptations to this grading rubric. But in general, if you take a look at it, you'll get a good sense of how you'll be graded. All right, let me give you some tips now for how to put together that presentation. You'll want to write your presentation in Microsoft Word, and you'll want to create your presentation in PowerPoint. If you have Word and Excel and PowerPoint, in other words, Microsoft Office, already loaded on your computer, use that. That's the smartest thing to do. But if you don't have those apps loaded on your computer, remember, all students for free can access those apps online via a web browser by logging into your CatMail account. I'm going to show you how to do that. The first thing that you need to do is log into your CatMail account. So go to catmail.ohio.edu and log yourself in. When you log yourself in, you'll see your email, and that's what I'm looking at right here. The great thing about this is that from here, you can open up any Microsoft Office application. All you need to do is move over here and then click on that waffle. When you click on that, you'll see that you have access to PowerPoint, to Excel, to lots of different Microsoft products. All that you need to do is click on the app that you want to open. So, for example, when I computed the ANOVA for this research report, I used Excel. I have that file opened right here. For your research report, you're going to write about those analyses in a Microsoft Word document. Let's go back to Excel for a second, and let me show you how you can easily copy and paste those analyses into your research report. You can use these same techniques to copy your analyses into your presentation. There are actually a couple different ways to do it. Let me show you a few. So for example, let's say that I wanted to copy this summary table so that I had basic descriptive statistics in my research report. So from Excel, I might highlight that table, and then I'm going to hit Control-C on my keyboard to copy that information. Control-C. When I hit Control-C, you'll see the marching ants go around that table. That shows that that table is being highlighted. At this point, I can go into Word or PowerPoint, wherever I need it, and then paste it in. And the best way to paste it in is by hitting Control-V. And you can see that works pretty well. But let me show you another way. This is a way that I actually like better. Let's go back to that Excel file. I'm going to click somewhere away from that table and then hit my Escape key to turn off the highlighting. And what I'm going to use this time is the snipping tool. If you have a Windows machine, you have access to the snipping tool. And other types of computers have similar options. So I'm going to click on my snipping tool. And at this point, I'm asked what I want to do. I want to create a new snip. You'll see that your screen fades just a little bit. That's so you'll be able to see very clearly what you're trying to cut out. So like before, I want this summary table. So I'm going to go over to the beginning of it. I'm going to click and highlight. And I'm going to drag until I've highlighted the entire table. Then I'm going to lift up. And at this point, that part has been snipped off and it's in memory. I just need to copy it. So again, I'm going to hit Control C. Once I hit Control C, I've copied that information so I can close this window. Now I'm going to go into Microsoft Word where I want to paste it in. I'm going to come down here just a little bit and hit Control V to paste it. Control V. You can see that looks pretty good too. In fact, I like that better. And another thing that I like about it is that it pastes it in as an image. So I can click on that image and I can resize it. So to get information from your Excel analyses into your research report or your PowerPoint presentation, you can use copy and paste, or you can use some form of a snipping tool. By the way, one easy way to find the snipping tool is to hit your Windows key and then just start typing in snip, and you'll see the options that you have available. I like using this snipping tool right here. You click on that and it's ready to go. As you know, to complete that report, you want to go through the instructions and address every single point. For example, when I click on those instructions, I can see that there are 7 primary sections that I need to address. You want to address those exact same sections in your presentation. Let me show you an example of how to get started. Here is a PowerPoint file. And this shows you in general how to structure your PowerPoint presentation. All good presentations have a title page. Yours should have a title page as well. And at this point, if you were presenting in front of the class, you would start talking. Everything that you would plan to say, you should write right down here in the notes section. So for each slide in your presentation, use that notes section to write exactly what your group would say orally if you were to be doing the presentation face-to-face in a classroom. And be sure that you include sufficient detail so that the readers will understand what your group did and exactly what your group found. So again, let's look at our instructions page. You can see that in section 1, I'm asked to talk about some basic background information. Later on, I'm asked to talk about the different variables involved in the research study. In this section, I'm asked to describe the assumptions associated with the analysis of variance. Well, each one of those sections can be in a slide or within a few slides. For example, let's go back to my PowerPoint presentation. Slide 1, of course, was a title page, but then in slide 2, I'm starting to talk about some background information. Like you would expect, your slides should include just bulleted information points, but then down below in your notes section, make sure you include word for word everything that you want to say. In this presentation, I was estimating that I would need a couple different slides for the background information. And then I probably need a couple slides to talk about the assumptions associated with analysis of variance. And let me show you again how you can get these graphics into your report. For example, when discussing the assumptions, it might be smart to share your distributions. Well, I already have those distributions in Excel. They're in this sheet right over here. I've already pasted in the distribution for the Democrats and the Republicans. If I want to paste in the distribution for the independents, I can click on that. I can hit Control C to copy that information. And then I can go back into my PowerPoint presentation, click on the slide that I'm working on, and then hit Control V to paste that information in. PowerPoint comes up with some suggestions for how to format that graphic. Sometimes those are helpful, but not always. In this case, I'm just going to close that out. And then I'm going to take that graphic and just move it to where I want it. And if I want to resize it, I can do that as well. So it's really easy to get your graphics from your Excel analyses into your PowerPoint presentation. In this sample presentation, after I talk about the assumptions, I start talking about the basic descriptive statistics, and then eventually I get into the ANOVA. Let me show you how I got this table into here. Let's just do it again. I'm going to click on that and delete it. If I needed that ANOVA source table, I would go back to my Excel spreadsheet. I would find that source table, and I'm going to use the snipping option that I told you about before. So I'm going to click on my snipping tool. I'm going to create a new snip. I'm going to highlight the area that I want to copy. I'm going to hit Control C to copy that information. I'm going to close that window because I don't need it anymore. I'm going to go back into PowerPoint, and now I'm going to hit Control V to paste it in. Now, do you notice that when it pastes it in, it pastes it in a little bit small. That's no problem. All I need to do is click on it, drag, and make it bigger. And although it looks blurry right now, just give it a minute. And there you'll see it's nice and crisp and easy to read. So that's using the snipping tool. Of course, you can copy and paste as well. I just don't like how that turns out as much. So in this case, I could highlight the entire table using my mouse, hit Control C. You can see the marching ants show that that section is highlighted. And then we would want to come back into PowerPoint, find the slide where we want that table, and then hit Control V to paste it in. You can see that method works out pretty well also. PowerPoint will automatically format that table in a relatively colorful way. You can resize it, but when you resize it, those columns often change and the text often wraps. And sometimes I just don't like the way that it looks at that point. But in reality, that looks pretty darn good. So there are several different ways to get the analyses from your Excel worksheet into your PowerPoint presentation. Scrolling down in my sample presentation, you can see I then created a slide for Fisher's LSD post-tests and then a slide for conclusions. This is just an example, but I wanted you to have a little bit of guidance for when you're working on your presentation with your group. Well, I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope you enjoy working with your group. If you have any questions, just let me know. In the meantime, be safe.